So today's video, I thought we would talk about common traits among girls and women who are autistic. And this list is not strictly for just girls and women. This can apply to anyone, especially if they are high masking or were diagnosed later in life. If you are new to this channel, my name is Jessica. I was diagnosed with autism a couple years ago in my late 30s, so I definitely relate to most of these traits that I'm going to talk about. I saw this post on Pinterest the other week and I thought I'd share it with you because this week marks 2 years that I was officially diagnosed as autistic. I had my suspicions for at least a year prior to that and then went in for an official diagnosis. And I relate to most, if not all of them in some way or another. So let's just get into it. I'm going to discuss each one briefly and just give you an example of how it has shown up in my life, whether as a child, a teenager, or in my later adult years. The first one is that girls or women may appear to be shy. I personally never identified with being shy, even though I was told over and over and over again by strangers, my family, and like friends of family that I was very shy and quiet. To me, shy meant that you were intimidated to talk to people. I just didn't want to. I preferred silence. I really prefer not talking unless I have something really important to say. And so usually I was just in the background listening to other people's conversations. However, later in my life, now that I'm officially diagnosed, I may come off even more shy. I just feel like talking to people even less than I already did. So I can see myself being a little bit more shy, but I still feel like I'm more outgoing than people perceive me to be. Number 2 is perfectionist, and this one I 100% agree with. I feel like I have to be perfect, and this started at a really, really young age. I had to get perfect grades. I had to be get social cues perfectly. I felt the need to just have a perfect home, be the perfect student, be the perfect worker. Just in every single aspect of my life, I feel like everything needed to be perfect. And when that didn't happen, it would cause me a lot of anxiety. And I think this is a way of trying to fit in and blend into everyone else, because I've always felt very different from other people, but I hid that through trying to be a perfectionist. Number 3 is the fear of getting things wrong, and this kind of ties into perfectionism. I really have a fear, and I always have, of people making fun of me or judging me for not doing something correctly or saying the wrong thing or not understanding it. I've always identified with being very smart, and so if I do something wrong, I'm like immediately embarrassed and ashamed that it didn't go to plan, or that I said something incorrectly. And I have a hard time with this. Like in college, I was learning to speak Spanish, and there were a few things that I had heard either in like songs or someone else say, and when I tried to use them in conversation, I got laughed at because they were said incorrectly, and that just made the fear of me wanting to learn that language like even stronger. And so it kept me from experimenting with like trying out new phrases or seeing what worked and what didn't. Number 4 is having a strong moral compass, and this one definitely rings true as well. I've always tried to stand up for people getting picked on and standing up to bullies, because I just never agreed with that. It's gotten me into a lot of heated arguments and conversations, especially in my adult life with family and friends. If I hear something that I don't morally agree with, I will speak out about it. And I've always been seen as argumentative or difficult because I don't go along with things just for keeping the peace. Number 5 is being sensitive, and I don't know anyone else who cries as much as I do. I am just brought to tears so easy. Some of the things we've already talked about on this list, like getting things wrong, that will bring me to tears, or being like reprimanded by an authority figure, having a disagreement with a partner or a friend, not understanding and being misinterpreted. So many things cause me to be very sensitive. I'm also sensitive to things I watch on TV. Like, I don't watch anything really scary um, or like thrillers or horror movies, because it just sits with me for a really long time and I can't shake those feelings. Or seeing and reading about people in distress or in horrible situations or animal abuse, things like that. I really have to be careful of what I consume, because it can cause me a lot of stress and an emotional turmoil. Number 6 is constant anxiety that is difficult to shift. And until a few years ago, I never considered myself an anxious person or having anxiety. To me, that always felt like if you have anxiety, you usually take medication for that. I've never taken medication, but I probably should have, because it was really intense, and it started back in junior high, high school. I used to be so anxious about the day ahead that I would wake up dripping sweat from my armpits, and like literally beads would like drip down my arms, and I would have to be really careful about what kind of clothing I wear so that it could hide sweat stains, because by like a few hours I would have sweat stains like down my sides. And anytime we were in class or just like standing around with friends in the hallways and stuff, I would be really careful about not moving my arms from this position so that people couldn't see how sweaty and anxious I was, or like raising my hand in class, it would never go above this unless I was wearing like a sweatshirt that could hide that, because it seriously, I would just bead sweat all the time. And even as an adult, even though that went away on its own, my anxiety definitely got worse through my 20s, 30s, until just a few years ago when I took like really strong steps to reduce the anxiety in my life. But yeah, I now see that I have always been an anxious person, and that I really have to be careful about limiting things that cause me stress, which is a lot being autistic. Number 7 is difficulty reading thoughts and emotions in others. I do struggle with this, but I feel overall I'm pretty, like, if I'm watching something on TV, I can kind of guess their emotions, but if it's in person, like if someone's being like out of the blue rude to me, I take it personally because I can't understand what they might be going through. I especially have difficulties when people are visibly emotional for some reason but deny it. That like I have a lot of confusion of like, well, they said they're okay, but they don't look like it, so I'm not really sure if I should believe their words or what I'm seeing. So that part is difficult for me, but I feel like I've usually always been an empath and like kind of been able to guess other people's moods. So number 8 is that you may obsess over things or people. For me, this one, not so much people do I obsess over, but like if I get an idea in my head, I will not stop thinking about it. Like I will think about it 24 hours a day. From the time I wake up, I will be thinking about making list of, if it's like a project, I will start making list of all the things I need to plan for it, all the steps to take, what it's going to look like when it's all done, what's the next step after that, am I going to expand it, where am I going to get the materials, how am I going to work this into my schedule. And it doesn't stop like once that's on paper. I will continually think about that through the entire day, and I usually won't be able to sleep at night because I am like literally obsessed with that and like can't break from that. And it definitely affects my relationships, especially with my husband, because I will be so focused on something that I will not be living in the moment and enjoying time together. And so I really have to watch myself with special interests, because they can get out of hand really fast. Even when I had like a small crafty business on Etsy, like all of my free time that wasn't spent at work was spent on this crafting business. And like I did not take breaks. I needed to be reminded to eat or go out on a walk or just like focus and be in the moment. And so it would create a lot of anxiety, and that's what added to like being an anxious person, like wanting to like keep going over these ideas, and like expanding my crafts would just like cause me more anxiety, and it definitely had a negative effect on my relationship with my husband at the time. Okay, number 9 is Jekyll and Hyde personality due to masking and fawning. And this is so autistic people, high masking especially, they will mirror the personalities of who they're talking to. So if you're talking to someone who's like very loud and laughing and telling jokes, I will try and like incorporate that, even though that is not natural for me. I will try my best to match their energy level. Whereas if I'm talking to someone who's really soft spoken and quiet, I will try and match that, and which is more my speed anyways. But I think there's like an idea of us not being honest because we can switch our personality so fast. And for me, it also becomes like I can go from like super happy and excited, and then like a split second later I'll be like super frustrated and angry over something. And for someone else that's like who I'm talking to or like in the room with me may feel like that came out of the blue, but for me it's just like it just happened, and it's like something triggered me and I like flip into a like whole other person. So I think that's where this Jekyll and Hyde personality can come from. Number 10 is doesn't want to stand out. And while I do agree with this, like I don't really want to stand out. I just kind of want to blend into the crowd. I also don't want to be like everyone else. Like in high school, I felt pretty safe with my friends and group of people, and just free to express myself. So I really wore very interesting clothing. I felt free to experiment with my clothing and hairstyles and makeup and just like be an individual. I definitely did not dress like most people in high school. But at the same time, I definitely, because I wanted to stand out in that way, in other ways, I wanted to blend in by like being quiet and like not drawing attention to myself by being loud or rambunctious. I think there's a safety in blending in, but at the same time, I don't want to be just another one in the crowd. I want to be an individual. Like, it bothers me so much that I have one of the most popular names for millennials. It just drives me nuts. Like right now at work, there are at least 3 other Jessicas, and I hate that I have the same name as other people. It drives me nuts. Same with when I was really little, my mom would make us matching outfits to go to like the zoo or like family photos and stuff, and I hated matching other people in the family. Like it didn't even matter if it was just a sibling or my mom. I did not want to wear the same clothes as someone else. I wanted to be myself and dress myself. So while yes, I do want to blend in, I also really have this independent side where I just want to be my own person. I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to be a follower. I just want to be left alone in my own little world. Number 11 is unusual eye contact. And for a lot of autistic people, that means like looking away when someone else is talking to you, or like making very intense eye contact where you just can't look away and never blink. For me, and I didn't know I did this until I started like until probably my 30s. But I focus my eyes on someone's face. Usually it's the mouth because that's what catches my attention since it's moving. And I will, like I'm doing it right now watching myself in this, I'm watching my mouth And so it looks like I'm looking at you straight on, but I'm actually like looking just below, so that, because eye contact is really intense and like kind of um, physically causes me pain. And so I will focus on the mouth. And I didn't know I did this. Sometimes I will catch myself when I'm doing it and try really hard to look at someone's eyes, and I just like, my eyes start to water, and like I just like, I can't maintain it for more than a few seconds. So then I'll go back to looking at their mouth, and then I wonder if people can notice if I'm watching their mouth and not their eyes. But now that I know I'm autistic, I just don't care. I will continue to look at the mouth because that is easiest for me. And I also think that it might help me hear them better because I'm watching their mouth move and can see what they're trying to say. But that is just, that's how I've always done eye contact. I've never been able to look someone in the eye for more than a couple seconds. Number 12 is being exhausted from holding it all in and masking all day. And this is so true. I, for the longest time, pushed myself to be productive and be like the best employee I could be, the best student I could be. But at the end of the day, I'm just exhausted. And even though right now I'm only working 30 hours a week, when I come home at the end of my 6-hour shift, which isn't, I'm at a desk all day, so it shouldn't be that exhausting. I come home and I have to lay down for several hours, and the most I can do is just like read a book and drink tea because I'm just flat out exhausted from trying to fit in. And for me, I have a lot of sensory overload, so that has to do with it too. But just trying to like mask and not stand out at work is so difficult. Number 13 is likes to see things through the end. And for me, when I start projects or am like trying something new, even if I change my mind and like don't want to do these things, I feel like I owe it, like I have to do it, even though like I don't want to. Like, it's really hard for me to not finish a book, even though I absolutely hate it. I think in the last couple years, there's only been 2 that I haven't finished because I'm like so determined, like maybe something's gonna change or I need to like experience the whole thing. Like I have to finish it to the end. I'm getting better about that and just saying like, no, I'm not feeling it. Let's move on. But like, it's really hard for me to get that to that stage. I feel like if I give up, I'm kind of a failure. So I just keep going, even though I'm obviously not getting enjoyment out of whatever this project or activity is. 14 is enjoys being alone. And I love being alone. There was a time in my early 20s where I felt very lonely and I didn't really have a lot of friends, and I really struggled at that age. So at that point I didn't enjoy being alone as much. I felt there was something wrong with that. But as a child and in my later adult years, in my 30s and now early 40s, I love alone time. Like, I don't know the last time I've gone out with a friend or like done anything really outside of the apartment, besides with my husband. And like, I just love being alone. I do. I feel like that's the only time that I can really be myself. Even like, my husband and I have been together 20 years almost. But like, I can't film these videos when he's here because just having someone be there, I don't like being perceived, even though he's not judgmental at all and he's very encouraging. It's still like, I feel like I'm performing for someone, and there are certain things like playing the music I like, or like dancing, or like watching certain shows that I really like. I feel like I can only do that when I'm by myself because I don't want anybody else around when I do those. Not that he's gonna judge me, but there are just some things I don't feel comfortable sharing with even the closest person in my life. I just like, I need to be alone to do these things. 15 is may feel out of place, and I have felt out of place pretty much my entire life in pretty much every single situation I've ever been in. Um, when I was really little, throughout my entire childhood, we moved constantly, like once a year. Um, and so I always thought before my diagnosis that's why I felt out of place, because I was always the new kid. I was always struggling to fit in. And in order to compensate for that, I would always pick up other kids' hobbies so that I would find a way to connect with them. And so like that's part of like the Jekyll and Hyde personality, is like taking on other people's personalities and like activities they like. So that was my coping mechanism. But like even after we stopped moving and I was firmly planted in the same school through like 5th grade through 12th grade, I still felt out of place even amongst my friends that I've known for years at that point. I always felt like they their friendships outdated mine and that I was still always the new kid. Um, so it's really hard for me to make friends because I always feel like an outsider, and that's been really hard to like get over. Even in my 40s now. I also think that part of this is because I want to be independent and not go along with what everyone else likes or thinks. Um, like I have jobs where I've been on one side of the political spectrum where everyone else is on the other one. Um, and it just like I always feel like the odd one out, or like maybe they're more religious and like I don't believe in that. And so it's like I always feel on the outside like there's just something that I don't quite connect with other people on. And that also extends to like family and friends. Like I feel out of place even in my own family, just because I'm autistic and most of them are not and don't really understand what that means. So I don't feel like I can talk to them, or like again, I have different worldviews, political views, um, different ethics that I go by. So it's like it's really hard for me to find a situation where I feel really comfortable. Number 16 is inappropriate humor. Um, and this only creeps up every once in a while for me. Like usually I think like my actually I don't even think I'm that funny, just to myself and my husband really, but um there are a few times when I've tried to fit into other people's humor and like try and copy that I've said some really hurtful things that were like over the top, and I just thought I was just trying to fit in, but and copy what they were doing, but it comes out really bad sometimes, and I just like I don't know where that line is. So now that, and it doesn't happen very often, but when I do, like I immediately as it's coming out, I regret what I'm saying. And it's just like I don't know why I said that. Like immediately I know I shouldn't have said that. And so um now I try really hard not to fawn and like try and mimic other people, especially humor. If it's something I'm not usually comfortable with, I'm trying really hard to like not respond, because I don't want to like say those things. Like I don't want to be that person. So I'm really trying to be authentic in showing up in relationships. Um, and like it's really hard. I feel like there's some people's jokes I just don't get, and not and even when they're not inappropriate, I don't know how to respond to them. So instead of forcing myself to respond to them in a way that matches their humor, I just don't say anything, or I say I don't really get that joke. That's been a learning curve for me, but I'd rather do that than accidentally hurt someone's feelings because I've said something not nice when I don't mean to. Okay, and the last one, number 17, is loves to role play. And this is probably the one that I don't really connect with. I have a really hard time with imagination. Like, I do find myself very imaginative and creative, but it has to be kind of in set guidelines. Like, um, I fantasize a lot about the books I read and like those imaginary worlds, but if I were asked to create my own, I can't do it. Same with like Halloween costumes. If you were just to tell me we're having a Halloween party, I need you to like come dressed as something, there are too many choices and I just can't do it. Um, and so for most of my childhood, I dressed as a witch in just a black witch dress and a black hat because I had like zero imagination of, there was just too many choices. But if you give me a guideline of what you can be, like come dressed as like a woodland creature, then I can like work with that because it has boundaries. And this is something that when I was getting my diagnosis, that the that my doctor told me is that a lot of autistic people have a hard time with like out of the box imaginations, and that we need like strict rules or guidelines to like show us where the boundaries are. And I definitely agree with this because like for back to the Halloween costume, for instance, we used to have friends that would put on this annual party in the summer, and it was called the Supervillain Convention, and so everyone would come dressed as villains, which I particularly don't like dressing up as things, but we had a lot of friends go, and so I went, and it was actually kind of fun. And like we had guidelines of like come dressed as a villain, so that I've been like the Wicked Witch of the West, the Wicked Witch of the East. I've been um, Captain Hook and Shmee. We've done like all sorts of things. But the thing about these parties is that our friends that hosted these got really into them and would like talk to you in their characters like personality and voice, and kind of expect you to talk back to them in your character and voice. Like this wasn't a requirement, but like they went over the top and like could do these things because they enjoyed it, and I don't. And so like I would come dressed as this fictional person, but like I would have a really hard time having a conversation as that person because I just don't enjoy pretending I'm someone else. So that one is probably the only one that I don't really agree with on this list for me. Um, but yeah, overall, like I thought that was a really good list of traits for, like I said, not only women and girls, but anyone who's on the spectrum and is high masking and just doesn't fit the normal standards of what they used to think autism looked like. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know. I'd love to know if there's anything that you really identify with on this list, or if there's things that you definitely don't, because like because autism is a spectrum, and so not everyone is going to have the same, no one's going to have the same experience as anyone else. We're all vastly different, and it's very interesting to see what traits people may have in common or what we don't. And I hope this video was helpful. When I was first looking into am I autistic, I found a lot of videos like this of actual examples of how they fit into their life. Really helpful to see like how it applies to them, because when you see this list it might be, yeah, sure, but when you actually get into the details and like hear someone say exactly what you've been feeling or have felt, have experienced your entire life, it's pretty life-changing to find someone else who can identify with that. And so hopefully I can help someone like other people have helped me in my journey. So thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I haven't had much autism content lately. I'm going to try and do some sort of educational video of how it's applied to my life at least once a month this year. So if you enjoy that sort of content, please like and subscribe and stick around, because we will go through a lot of different things on here. And thank you for being here.